Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host, Sophia Sabreen, and this is the Second Golden Age podcast.
So I'm Faisal Amjad, and the Second Golden Age is a podcast dedicated to Islam, the Quran, critical thinking, and we're going to look at what made up the first Golden Age, what made them so successful, and how do we bring back some of those things that made them so successful into today and the modern day. So what we talked about. Oh, go on. Go for it.
Yeah. It's always been said that Muslims said, especially like the Muslim civilization is one that lives in the past. That right now the modern civilization is a futuristic one. Like, what's the future going to look like? But we are people who live in the past, and part of the reason is that we are people who had a very glorious past, and that is something that needs to be, as if we feel that it wasn't completed, in the sense it didn't reach its full fruition, full potential, exactly, and that we need to complete that work that was left incomplete by our forefathers, I would say, our ancestors. But the thing is, we've been talking about a lot of stuff. We talked about Sheikh Imran Hussain in our previous episode. We just touched upon this very important, this very critical topic of the two C's. And what that essentially means is that, the world essentially, if we read the Quran also says there is an element about the world that it is illusory, in the sense there is deception in the world. One does get deceived with the things of this world. So appearance and reality have always been somewhat different. But in the last age, the fitna of the last age, the trial of the last age is that here, appearance and reality are going to be completely different. And of course, we discussed the parable from Surah Kahf, where Musa alayhi salam, you have a prophet on one hand, and you have a sage, a mystic, which is Khidr alayhi salam, traveling. Musa alayhi salam using all faculties of like physical knowledge, ears, your eyes, your intellectual faculty to reason. And Khidr alayhi salam is seeing the same thing from another, from completely different perspective, and they come to completely different sort of viewpoints about the same situation. So this is, we talked about what is needed in today's world is neither of the two extremes. It's both of these together. Yeah, and where do you find that? Where do you get that, basically?
Absolutely. So I've got a question for you, Sabreen. So if I was to ask you, who is the number one most influential or most popular sort of Islamic scholar today?
It would be, I think, Sheikh Yasir Qadhi, or maybe Sheikh Hamza Yusuf.
Yeah, I had a feeling that you were going to say that. So yeah, I would agree. I think Hamza Yusuf, Sheikh or Hamza or Yasir Qadhi are like literally up there in terms of who the world turns to, especially in the English language, or obviously in Arabic there's probably others, but if you look at what do they have, let's break them down a little bit then. So what do they actually have in common? Okay, so they're sort of English speakers and this and that, but the first thing is that they have an excellent grasp of obviously the classical Islamic education. So Sheikh Yasir Qadhi went to, I think, Medina. He did the traditional Islamic learning and things like that. And Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, obviously, he went on his own journey. He went to Mauritania at the feet of scholars. So again, did the very traditional, the traditional Islamic education. But what they also did was, Yasir Qadhi was a engineer. So he went to university, and he was an engineer, and actually he was an engineer first, and then he became a scholar actually. With Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, he is widely known as being is so deep in so many different subjects. He is the ultimate kind of I guess polymath of this age, in the sense that he can talk articulately about so many different subjects, so well read. And so we turn to them in these times of crisis, what's for their commentary, what they're going to say. But actually, we don't sometimes look at how are they able to be at that stage. It's because there's loads of people who have who might have been come out of Darul Ulooms or might have studied or are scholars in their own right, but they definitely don't necessarily have the tools to be able to like talk about the modern age and to explain and to like analyze it all. And I think that's both really good example of the two C's meeting and what the power of it.
Absolutely. I mean, the second golden age, if you were to ask me, what does it signify? And in all of our study, we just again and again we find the same pattern, which I think is, it's not, you don't find it in earlier civilizations, you don't find it in the contemporary setup of education that we have. In the golden age of Islam, you literally had like literal mystics who were all about spirituality and how basically all about knowledge from the inside, and they were writing on physics, literally, like cosmology, Islamic cosmology, but they were interested in these subjects. And you had like theologians who were talking about like the atomic theory. We know in the Islamic tradition it was theologians who did that. So they personified this attitude of this two C's coming together. So, but the problem is, now I'm going to present the problem. I mean, let me ask you, what do you think is the number one problem of this lack of Muslim thinkers? I mean, we have education, we have Islam, we have the Quran, but then where are the thinkers? Where is the innovation? Where's the creative part? Why are we still not with that, with the golden?
I think it's a very, very good question that you pose. I think you kind of said it yourself, really. That is the problem, essentially. We are the Muslim thinkers. How there's no facility or process in place to create thinkers, because again, thinkers are ones. What constitutes a thinker? So a thinker is like reflecting on things, and sometimes he's going to question things, and he's going to actually present something new, and he's going to or innovate or things like that. And what we do in our tradition is, I don't know, we've got to chop those guys down. They're going to deviate. They're going to send people deviate and all that kind of stuff. That's what we do. Often, what we actually do is, even if you look at someone like Muhammad Iqbal, he was considered a deviant in his time, and he did that shikwa thing, and then obviously he explained it afterwards and stuff. But what is, we jump on we really jump on people's backs for even daring to think. And for me, I think this is the thing. We need to understand that Islam is all about wisdom. Even Kinsey said that nothing should be dearer to the seeker of truth than the truth itself, right? That means that, and he also said that even if you have to go to non-Muslim means to find it, that's fine. You can, and because ultimately that's what matters at the end of the day. And so, and I think that sometimes what we do is that we glorify people who have been and gone, but in their lifetimes they were really chastised. So even if you look at some of the great scholars, Imam Ghazali, in their lifetimes they were criticized and stuff. So I think the first thing is that, first of all, we need to understand that Islam and the Quran has been sent until the end of time. So for all ages, and all ages have their own problems and stuff. So we need to be able to understand it for the contemporary era. And then secondly, we need to not be so fixed and like knowledge can't change. Oh no, like what we've been given is enough for us, and not even try and think, but or just be outsourced it to someone else. So I think we need to have that kind of that hunger, that desire, that thirst to really, really like get to the bottom of it and understand it and stuff. So I think to give you one example again is Malcolm X. So he is someone I quote him a lot because again it's really, really inspiring the transformation that real seeking for truth can have. That he was obviously the lowest of the low, went to jail, criminal, all that kind of stuff. He came out so hungry for knowledge. Like he basically, like I said, he was in memorized dictionaries, and he just consumed book after book after book after book after book, right? And he came out orator, he came out a thinker, and again, he didn't have that Islamic scholarship or anything like that, but he had a mentor, and he had this desire to keep learning and learning and learning. What that did was that sincerity to the truth. And that's, if you look at a lot of his quotes, all he can talk about is sincerity. As long as you have sincerity, Allah will guide you on the back. And that's exactly what happened. Like, even though he was with nation Islam and stuff. He went to Hajj and he went to Orthodox Islam and alhamdulillah, and then obviously then he was taken away, unfortunately. But this is the thing. This is
his life is literally an inspiration
yeah.
in various ways. But in one of the ways that he inspires us is this. He embodied what knowledge should be. Knowledge should be the truth, to find truth. That is your goal. If you're seeking knowledge, and for us as Muslims, we've been told that wisdom is the lost property of the believer. He takes it wherever he finds. So lost property is like, it's mine. So let's say I find it in ancient, Greek civilization. I'm going to take it because Iman, faith, and wisdom are like one, and that is the core foundation of the Quran. But nowadays the problem. Now I'm gonna talk about the problem today and why we're talking about this, because the second golden age is not like a history project. You have so many websites, you have so many blogs, you have so many sort of speakers talking about Islamic history, but they just do that, speak about Islamic history. But we're action-based in the sense you're not only learning about Islamic history, now it's time for you to act. And the way you can on this is firstly to understand the concept of what knowledge was in the Islamic civilization in the golden age of Islam. So we talked about the 2 C's. It was like a given. Knowledge is not just what you get from books. So it's not physical. It's not things that sort of information that you get from your senses. But knowledge, a part of, if knowledge were, let's say, like, a big blob of light, let's say a sort of a floodlight, most of that would be attributed to internal spiritual insight, like knowledge which is given directly from God. And then some of that is then the ones that you get from books. That is the one that is handed down through generations. Now this is, if you would say, for us, that's key to our understanding as Islamic, for the Islamic civilization. You don't have it in the West. Western education completely denies that. There is no such knowledge as spiritual knowledge that that's not just coming directly from some unseen source. But this is where the problem is. Right now, the fact that we don't have that sort of insight, the one that the golden age had, this is where the problem is, that we have this dichotomy. We have unknowingly, unwillingly accepted this Western model of education, but because of our sort of commitments with our religion, so we do incorporate some of religious education, but what we are essentially imparting ourselves and our children is this idea that knowledge essentially comes from books, from people, from physical sources. And then you study your religious texts. There is no collaboration. There is no unity between these knowledges. There's no mixing of the 2 C's. But with the second golden age and with that's our goal. So tell us more about it. So what do you think?
So what I'd say is that, look, this is a really, a big thing that transformed or the paradigm shift for me is when I learned the difference between knowledge and knowing. So I kind of thought, okay, what knowledge and to know and to have knowledge is the same thing, right? And it's not at all. Knowing is the higher form, right? Knowing is active. Knowing is I'm applying everything that I've learned. I'm implementing it, taking action. I'm building my character and all that stuff. Basically, it's the active form of knowledge played out. Basically, what's happened today is that we have knowledge. It's very passive. Okay, I've got my degree certificate on my wall, and that's great. And okay, I've got my certificate, ijaza and stuff. Okay, great. But it's not being used in the way it's supposed to be. We've talked about and so when we talk about history and all this type of stuff, I'm a big believer in we talk about again with this whole 2 C's thing. If you look at a lot of the critical thinking models and mental models and tools and stuff available, we should use some of those things to help us in this as well. So one framework that I kind of use quite a bit, especially because in my capacity as a marketeer, we use this in our marketing. It's a concept called bright spotting, right? So this is from a book called Switch. how to change when change is hard, right? And what it says is that, look, you can find the answer to any complex problem by finding someone who's achieved what you want to achieve, right? So, but because if you study their behavior models and this and that, then you have at least somewhere to start instead of having to rethink the wheel and so that. So just using that bright spotting concept and looking at the golden age. Okay, if you want to bring about a golden age, first of all, you need to study it and see what made them so great, how were they great, and all that kind of stuff. It's not just, oh yeah, Allah bless them and they're the cursed ones. No, it's not that. Okay. If you have to have the intentions, and you need to, take the ownership, and Allah's the one that has all the power at the end of the day. We're just means and vehicles, right?
Absolutely. And that is where, our work with No essentially comes up with the second golden age. One word on that I would say is, for us as Muslims, thinking would involve, why are we insisting on this, the 2 C's and this, all of this, the Majma al-Bahrain, is essentially because from the Muslim perspective, everything that happens in the world is actually half of the reality. Half of the reality is in a spiritual world. So everything has a meaning. Everything that is happening in the physical world essentially has some relation and correlation with a spiritual reality, which can be only accessed through spiritual insight. And that, who can give you that except for Allah?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the core Islamic belief. But the problem today is, of course, like we said, we've just adopted what is the dominant way of knowledge, and we've just copied and pasted it onto our curriculum, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And the solution lies in an organic sort of mixing of these 2 C's. And alhamdulillah, think about it. We have all the tools that are available right now. In the sense, we have a huge online space that we can occupy. We can sort of get experts on all these different fields to talk about different. So somebody could get their expertise in one field. Somebody could get their expertise in the physical field of knowledge. And all of this together, we could have something like Majma al-Bahrain on any topic, name it, and we could sort of bring the 2 C's together on it. And with that, I think, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
And that's the way to go. And the second golden age is all about that. It's action based. It's studying the past, taking the important points out of that, and then applying it to the problems of the present, for the future, inshallah.
Yeah. So one thing I just want to finish on is, I mentioned also the whole right sorting thing. Another concept or another kind of famous principle of today is the 7 habits of highly successful people, right? So obviously that's a often quoted book, and it's one of the bestsellers of today and stuff. So one of the first habits is to begin with the end in mind, right? So begin with the end in mind. Basically, have a vision, know where you're going and what you're trying to do. And I think that this is very relevant for us, because look, what is our end goal objective? This is where the name second golden age comes from. Begin with the end in mind, right? We're not satisfied. We haven't completed our mission until a second golden age has come about, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is that even if you look at, we're really fortunate that we know that we're in the last stage and all that kind of stuff, and we've got all the hadith, all the prophecies and all that kind of stuff. So even that, we kind of know where things are heading towards anyway, and so you can use that to kind of guide and navigate your way through, and that's why. But this is the thing. The problem with this day and age is that we've become specialists. Oh yeah, I'm a specialist in X. Oh yeah, I'm a this, and it's very. But anything you do in that's binary. First of all, it's old school. It's out of date. This is the stuff that was maybe 50, 60 years ago in the kind of corporate world. That's what they wanted. But you need to we all champion Elon Musk and all of these people. Actually, they are polymaths of today, right? And that's why they're super successful and this and that. So I think this is where we need to kind of understand that, right? Knowledge is not, really like just I'm really knowledgeable because I've got expertise in one thing. We need to embrace this whole concept of lifelong learning, and taking taking knowledge, like being hungry for knowledge, for all types of knowledge, because all of it connects the dots anyway, and the way it works in your brain. I mean, we'll go into that stuff in the future anyway. So I just want to leave it that. I want to end on that.
Exactly. And literally, I mean, let's be honest. You read the Quran from chapter 1 till the end. It's very clear. Allah gives you a straight path, in the sense your way to success and your way to ultimate felicity is that of knowledge. There's no other way. There is no other way. It is through knowledge. He says, I mean, know that there is no God but He.
Yeah.
So this is a thing that you know. This is a thing that you have to gain knowledge of. So for us, yes.
No, go for it. So finish your point, sorry.
For us, that's the way is clear. And while you mentioned the second golden age, I really want to mention this hadith that is mentioned. The Prophet ﷺ said that my ummah is like rain, and I don't know which shower is the best, the first one or the last one. So he has given this, when we discuss the idea of the second golden age with Sheikh Imran Hussain, he's the one who mentioned this hadith in one of his mails as a response to the second golden age. He said that you're going to have basically the earlier Muslims who did their best, and you're going to have Muslims towards the end of time who are going to revive that, and who are going to resemble the Sahaba in their outlook. So one has to strive for the best.
Absolutely.
Let's do that.
100%, inshallah. One final thing is that we have to understand that in the Quran, Allah taught us the names of all things, right? So that's one thing that we know. What that means is that obviously He's our Father and stuff. That means that the human being has got the potential to learn all things, right? So we haven't maximized that potential until we even get to that stage. So that's what I'm saying, that we're capable of so much, but we settle and stuff. So this is why we need to embrace that. Okay, you know what? Wow, that's what we can aspire to. And it's one of our things anyway, that we have to aspire for ihsan. So this is how we're going to, inshallah, get to that second golden age.
And I mean, when you have the goal in mind, but you also have to understand the sort of the obstacles that you have with contemporary education. If you notice, that is not the goal. If you see, for us as a Muslim, the goal is that realizing our full potential as knowing beings, as beings of knowledge. But for contemporary education, the purpose is just to earn a buck.
Yeah.
You get a degree to work, and you get a degree to work so that you earn and make a livelihood. But for in Islam, the core purpose of knowledge, and that is what needs to be sort of revived. That
pushed out. Yeah.
Pushed out, that for us, the number one, livelihood is there, but then the number one goal of knowledge and education should be just to fulfill your purpose as a servant of God, as a human being, your ultimate purpose. Okay, with that, we're going to end this episode of the Second Golden Age. And please do check the links that we're going to share. Watch the full playlist of the Second Golden Age. The link would be in the description. And stay tuned for another episode, inshallah, in the future. Assalamu alaikum.